Well, there I am, kind of. Nope. I'm getting myself here. This is interesting. There we go. I knew I was here someplace. See what happens when I'm not here for a few weeks and forget exactly how this all works, this technology. Oh my goodness. Hey, welcome. Good morning to you if you're tuning in live on the West Coast. Good afternoon if you are on the eastern part of the country. And if you are tuning in live, welcome to my return to Coffee Breaks with Steve after a brief hiatus. And you know how it is when you're on vacation or you get away from doing something that's part of your normal pattern for a few weeks, you come back and you almost have to reteach yourself everything, like how to make sure that you're on screen when you go live. So welcome. And we got a great show today. This is Veterans Day, and we have a Veterans Day special show today to honor those who have served in uniform for our country, who have purchased our freedoms, and we're going to get to that in just a few minutes. So put on the brakes, grab a cup of coffee, and get ready to join the conversation because it is time for Coffee Breaks with Steve. Once again, welcome. And thank you for being here today, for coming back with me. I'm going to share a few things in a few minutes about the last 3 weeks and being off the air because we did some fun things. Some of you who watch me on Facebook may be aware of that as well. But hello to Kim Baker. Actually, I should say good meowing and happy Canada Day, Kim. Yes. And Jerry Thompson is here. Rick Venturi, Jason is here. Kathy Garlick. And I know there are others who are probably tuning in. Make sure you do say hi in the chat and participate in the conversation. And let me know if you can hear me. I know that I just got word from director's booth that she had an audio dropout. Not sure if that was on her end or my end. So go ahead and put in the comments that you can still hear me. And, again, we're getting back into the groove here. Off and on because I'm hosting a I love it. Hi, Corey Ann. Good to see you. And make sure you do participate. Hi, Shalane. Yeah, Shalane had trouble finding me. Yes, you can hear me. Everybody can hear me. That's a good thing. Loud and clear. All right, listen, I'm trying to get back into the groove after 3 weeks away, but it was great. I appreciate the patience that everyone has when Coffee Breaks is not on for any period of time. The goal is always to keep things consistent, but family comes first. And when I'm on the East Coast with Carol, when she's doing work away from home and I join her, as I did the last 3 weekends before this one, number one, it's more difficult to put Coffee Breaks on from the East Coast because if I'm going live at 9:30 on the West Coast, that's 12:30 p.m. on the East Coast. And we are attempting to, when I am back in Rhode Island with her, we're using our weekend time to go do some exploring. I'll share a few things here in a couple of minutes. But it's just if I'm trying to go on the air at 12:30 live, it's already eaten into our day and our opportunities to get out and do things. So again, thank you for being patient and for allowing for that. I know we're going to have some more of that coming up between travels and the holiday season, and I'll keep you posted on all of that. So how things been going with you? We are now in the month of November, and this is November 11th, Veterans Day. So a special shout out to all of our military veterans and family members of the military who may be tuning in today. I know that we've got a few who are. And part of that is because you may have noticed, and you weren't already aware from my earlier posts about this, that I'm not in my home studio. I'm actually in a hotel room in Petaluma, California right now, and for the remainder of this weekend, because I have the opportunity to be participating in a special Veterans Day weekend with members of the Saber 6 Foundation. You're going to be hearing from in a few minutes. And last night there was a get together where a number of people came together, and some of them were veterans who served in Afghanistan and Iraq, and some were family members and even Gold Star family members, which means they are the family members of those who died in the line of service, who were killed in the line of service. And it's just an emotional and very meaningful thing to be spending time with those people. I feel very honored, very humbled to be able to do that. There was also this morning, and it's actually still going on, I was at a park nearby for the start of a road bike ride that had two options, I think a 24 and a 49-mile ride today. And I don't know, I'll have to do an official count and go back and look at some of my video, but I think there had to have been 80 plus people who took off for that bike ride. But I know there are also people who are going to be tuning in to this show for the first time who I've spoken to in the last 24 hours and are interested in seeing and hearing from our guests today, and I'll be getting to them very, very shortly. So I want to share a little bit of what I did over the last few weeks so that all of you can appreciate it as well. And we're going to do that with our sweet and savory segment for this week. And I just wanted to some of you have seen some of this because you follow me on Facebook and you know some of what I've been up to. But when I'm in the East Coast, I forgot what state it was again, it's Rhode Island. with Carol, we either plan some things to do on the weekends, or we just come up with things on the spur of the moment. And some of the stuff is just happening, and we get there and watch it happen. But we had an opportunity during the first weekend that I was back there this time to go just about an hour away from Providence, Rhode Island, to Quincy, Massachusetts, to the birthplace and home of our second president, John Adams, and his son, our sixth president, John Quincy Adams, and do a tour of their ancestral home, or their family home back there, which is now operated by the U.S. Park Service. And it's something I've wanted to do for a long time, and it met every expectation. And then we also took a drive. One of the things that we've been talking about doing this fall was to get out and drive through part of New England and just see the leaves changing, the colors changing. And we were getting out there even a little bit late in the season for this. They typically say it's better if you get out there in late September, early October. But even with that, we saw some amazing things. And then we had an opportunity for the Halloween time that we were back there to participate in a couple of things. One was a party at a nearby restaurant and pub that we frequent when we are near our hotel when we are in Rhode Island. And we got to go there. And then we signed up and went on what's called a ghost walk through part of Providence, which is, they do it to kind of tell you history and stories about some spooky things. I mean, it's not really, well, I guess some people who've done this in the past have claimed that they've actually seen ghosts or seen signs of something paranormal at some of the locations. We did not, although the people that you see in some of these pictures look like they might be a little bit ghostly or paranormal, but it was a lot of fun. And we enjoyed having that opportunity. Then during the weekend before this last one, our hotel is directly across the street from Providence, Rhode Island's Conference, Convention, and Sports Arena Center. And a week or so ago, they were hosting Rhode Island Comic-Con. And from our hotel room on the 9th floor, I could look directly out over the street and see across the street to all the activity going on. And every now and then I would just see enough people outside and see enough brightness of costumes. I would just head out of the hotel for a bit and walk across the street and catch pictures. And this is just a sampling of a few. I posted more online on my Facebook page over the last week, which you can go and see. But that was intriguing. And just to recognize that, and not all of them obviously in these pictures, but so many of the people hand make their homemade, handmade costumes, and they put so much time into it. And they go around to a variety of Comic-Con conventions and other cosplay events and show off their costumes. But it was very intriguing. And then we had an opportunity last weekend. They do something in Rhode Island or in Providence on a fairly regular basis. It's called Waterfire. It's at a park in the central part of downtown that has a man-made pond lake in the middle of it. And they have, in the middle, they have these torches that light up, fire effects that light up, and they put torches all around the outside. And this particular one a week ago was a Veterans Day. It was their last one of the season. And so it was a week before Veterans Day, but it was a Veterans Day honoring event. They had veterans who lit the torches. They had an orchestra playing patriotic music. And this is just one picture that I took there. And again, you can go on my Facebook page and see even more. And then the last weekend, the end of last weekend, just before I came home from Providence, we went and visited their zoo. We'd heard about it and heard that it's not a huge zoo, but an actual, it's a pretty cool one. And so we went and checked it out. And I was actually impressed. A lot of the animals were out. You could get, I mean, I'm zoomed in here. Wasn't directly next to this cheetah, but it was still cool to go there. And then I also wanted to share, because it is Veterans Day, this seemed relevant, but I read an article that today there was an auction taking place in UK. It was through Iconic Auctioneers. Iconic Auctioneers is the name of the company that's doing the auction, but this Jeep was donated by TLO Film Services in England. And this Jeep was actually used in the movie Saving Private Ryan and in the TV series, the HBO TV series, Band of Brothers. And it's going out for auction today. The engine was rebuilt earlier this year. This is an actual World War II Willys Jeep that was in service in England during World War II, and it's been used in a variety of settings, some TV series in addition to the Band of Brothers and Saving Private Ryan. And this interested me because I thought with something like this iconic that's been in those movies, I thought, man, this could go for a lot of money. They're actually expecting it, the auctioneer is expecting it to go for in auction for somewhere in the range of about $20,000 to $27,000 equivalent in US dollars. And that's actually less than what you would spend to buy a brand new Jeep today. But this one is drivable. It's completely refurbished. And I don't know, maybe too late for you to get over there and involve yourself in the auction, but kind of cool to know about. There's a birthday this week that I wanted to mention. Kathy Glavin's birthday is tomorrow, my sister-in-law, and want to wish her a happy, happy birthday. And hope that she enjoys it very, very much. Do you have a special day coming up this week that I missed for one reason or another? Would you put it in the chat so that we can celebrate with you? And if you have a birthday or a special day coming up anytime in the next few weeks, or if you have an update or a news story or some other item of interest that we can include in this segment, the Sweet and Savory segment, you can email that to me at the email address that's shown there. And once again, just a reminder that if you are joining us on here and you haven't yet said hello or made your comments in the chat, please do so. We want to know that you're here. And I once again want to welcome anybody who is tuning in for the first time. And if you are tuning in later, watching this recorded, that also applies. Please let us know that you joined us. Please make your comments and be part of the conversation. All right, I want to tell you a little bit about our guests. If you've been on Coffee Breaks with Steve and joined the conversation recently, you've probably already met them because our guests were on now a couple of months ago. They joined us to talk about their organization. And the guests today are retired Colonel Chris Kolenda and Dee Kiesow, and I'll tell you a little bit about each of them, and then we'll share their conversation with me. Retired Colonel Chris Kolenda has left military service, but continues to serve the military community in a variety of other ways. Today, he runs Strategic Leaders Academy, a consulting firm that helps veterans and their family members build meaningful, joyful, and profitable businesses. In 2007 to 2008, Colonel Kolenda led 800 paratroopers in eastern Afghanistan. 6 of his paratroopers were killed in action, dozens wounded, and every one of the 800 combat veterans have been deeply affected by the war. They all served and sacrificed so Americans could pursue their dreams peacefully and safely. Chris created the Fallen Hero Honor Ride to raise awareness and funds to honor their service. He's also written and been featured in several books about his experiences, including his latest book, Leadership, The Warrior's Art. I should also mention that Chris is the founder of the Saber 6 Foundation. A little bit about Dee Kiesow. Dee is a nonprofit executive director with 30 plus years of experience in fundraising and community engagement. She uses her passion for enrolling donors by inspiring joyful giving to elevate and transform those in need. Dee excels in fund development, strategic partnerships, vision and engagement, board management, and developing pathways to bring grassroots to greatness. Working on a regional and national scale, Dee possesses in-depth knowledge and experience in leading both the complex day-to-day operations of an organization, as well as guiding the vision, its vision, growth, and financial reserves. Dee is also a benefit auctioneer and raises tens of millions of dollars annually for numerous organizations using her 6-figure fundraising framework. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Radio and Television Journalism from San Jose State University. Her speaking engagements range from keynotes to numerous college lectures, inspiring young adults to consider careers in the nonprofit sector. Dee lives in San Jose, California, and is honored to join the Saber 6 Foundation team as its executive director, looking forward to bringing joyful outcomes to the 800 through the power of love. So again, you know something now about them if you didn't already, but I just want to give you the opportunity now to this. And again, this was recorded just a couple of weeks ago, but it's about Veterans Day and it's about this weekend that I get to spend, have the honor and the privilege, humbly, to spend with members of the Saber Six Foundation and a number of veterans and their families. Once again, Chris Kolenda and Dee Dee Kiesow. Well, welcoming back to Coffee Breaks with Steve today, Chris Kolenda and Dee Dee Kiesow, Saber Six Foundation. And many of you remember hearing from them and meeting them a few weeks ago when they joined us to talk about the Saber Six Foundation. But today we're meeting again to talk about a very important and special observance day. It's happening today, and that's Veterans Day. And I first of all, I just think it's interesting, and we can get into this to the extent that we feel we want to or need to. Veterans Day seems to be one of those national holidays that we're aware that it exists, but I think sometimes it passes by almost unnoticed, or we're really not sure how we should appropriately observe the day, and maybe even more importantly throughout the year be reaching out to our veterans. So I want to get into that, but maybe first, Chris, just a little bit of background in history on what Veterans Day is and where it comes from.
Oh, absolutely, Steve, and thanks for having us back on your program. You know, there's a difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day. So Memorial Day honors the people who died in service to our country. Veterans Day honors all of those who served our country, you know, who put themselves in harm's way or signed up to join one of the armed forces and to serve the country. So that's what Veterans Day is all about. And the reason why it's on November 11th is because that's the day of the armistice was signed in the First World War. And so after that war concluded, the United States set aside Veterans Day as a national holiday to honor all of those who have served our country in uniform.
And obviously that has expanded post World War II and in the years since to encompass even more. I don't know about the two of you, but I recall growing up without being aware again that Veterans Day existed, but not much that we really observed about it, without going into an entirely different story here. Of course, my young years, grade school, high school years, were during the Vietnam War, and we all recognize and recall that there was a lot of controversy and contentiousness around that, and I think maybe that had an impact on it. But I was looking at some statistics, and even now, so 90% of schools give students the day off for Veterans Day, and the other 10% observe it in some fashion. And what I wonder is, so when they observe it or when they give the day off, what's being taught? And that's probably not a question we can answer, but I think it comes back to how we recognize and observe Veterans Day. Fewer than 25% of non-government employers give their employees the day off for Veterans Day. And so it is one of those holidays. It's a federal holiday, but one that can often go by. And I just wonder, from both of your perspectives, Chris, for you as a veteran and someone who's working closely with veterans, Dee Dee, your involvement through the Saber Six Foundation, how each of you see the importance of this day, but also just the importance of how we connect with our veterans. And either of you can start.
So I'll start. Thank you, Steve. That's a good question. So how do I see the day? Well, it has more meaning for me now. When I was a child, our family observed it by going to the graves of all of the veterans that are related in our family. And, we took a moment there. Sometimes we went to the parade, but our family always flew the flag. As a family now, we keep our flag out all year long, and we're really proud of that. So every day is Veterans Day. I have 4 nephews in the Navy right now. But connecting, I have to say that, going back to when I met Chris, I did not expect that I would be connected like this. I wanted to just be helpful. But getting to know people and knowing that, there are lives affected by veterans who are home every single day because of their experiences. So it's their experience, but it's also their family experience and their friends' experience. And if we don't know somebody who's a veteran or a family, I think we're completely disconnected. and it's a holiday. It's a day off from work, or just another day. It affects other people, but not us. But sadly, I wish everybody knew that Veterans Day is everybody's day. And I think that's where we're missing the mark, to say, it is a unifying thing. And we enjoy this world and these freedoms in this country because of our veterans. And that's what's missing, I believe. We've put the curtain over it or something, and we just can't seem to talk about it and be real and see a veteran and say what we should say. Like, what was your best day ever? Or what is your best memory of being a veteran? And every day could be Veterans Day in that way.
Chris, what's your perspective?
Yeah, 100%. Agree with Dee Dee. We tend to put veterans on some sort of pedestal, whether you're either a hero or a victim. And when in reality, I mean, we're all just people. And just like anybody else, who put our pants on one leg at a time. I've served with a number of heroes. Most of us are just regular people like me who wanted to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And we're willing to put on the uniform to serve our country. And so for me, Veterans Day is it is that unifying theme where we can all get behind a group of people who were willing to put on the uniform to serve our country. And Dee Dee's exactly right about the questions. Right now, we tend to say, thank you for your service, and we sort of run away. And so by putting veterans on a pedestal and not knowing ways to connect with them, human being to human being, we create this division in our society. We reduce the levels of understanding, and veterans have a role to play in this as well. And so questions like, what did you do in the service? What was your fondest memory in the service? Where did you serve? What are you most proud about? Are all like questions that you can ask veterans, and the veterans ought to respond. I mean, veterans are just like anybody else. You're going to get a small slice of sort of goofballs, but 90% of the people, 99% of the people are going to answer your question sincerely and appreciate it. And it's also helps us connect people to what service was really like.
I like that. And that's educating for me. I hope I don't run away, but I do find that I'm one of those, out of a sincerity of the heart, that if I see a veteran, meet a veteran, I will usually, or as often as not, thank them for their service, and then not take it any further than that, and not really get to know them. And if you stop and think about it, you're right. Both of you are right, because we don't tend to do that with other people. If I'm meeting someone who is a colleague or someone in a business setting, what do you do? And, what's your background? We will want to get into those things because we build relationship. That's what our life's purposes are really about, right? We're created to build and create relationship. And so I think that's extremely important. What, as you, both of you have been involved and are involved with Sabre 6, and you're involved with veterans on a regular basis, what do you find are the things that, because you said, Chris, that it goes both ways. What do you find that often the veterans, and this is probably a very generalized question, but the types of things that veterans struggle in relating back once they have served, and particularly for veterans who served in combat situations, and they bring back memories, they bring back situations that may be difficult to share with someone who has never experienced that. What are some of those things, and how do we who have not served find the best way to both help with that communication or be sensitive to the types of things that particularly combat veterans return with?
One of the gifts that we have as human beings is the gift for empathy. And if you haven't served in combat, you can never know exactly what it was like. But that standard is way, way too high. you can get an appreciation for what it was like to be in a firefight, to interact with people half a world away, to have led people in. I mean, we've got people in their mid-20s who led 10 people in combat and used all of the firepower that America can muster. I mean, it's an extraordinary experience. And you'll never know exactly what that was like if you weren't there, but that's okay. You can gain an understanding just by talking with somebody. And on the veteran side, I mean, just because somebody can't know exactly what you went through doesn't mean you can't talk to them about it, and help them achieve a little bit of understanding. You don't have to get into all the, the most difficult experiences. I mean, we don't do that in first initial relationships anyway.
Right.
We tend to stay a little bit more surface level, and then as trust builds, you can kind of get down deeper. But I just don't buy the argument that I hear that, well, you would never understand, so I'm not going to talk to you. I mean, that doesn't work in any facet of life. And the good news is we've all been gifted with the capacity for empathy, and that's all we need to do to use that.
Dee Dee, for you, as you have gotten involved with Saber 6, you've had the opportunity to interact with veterans, with family members and survivors of veterans. What are some of the things that you found specifically have changed for you in how you relate to veterans and how you connect with them?
Well, I wasn't expecting that question. It's pretty personal, right?
It is.
And
freedom to share what you feel comfortable sharing. But I just think that's, as Chris was talking about, empathy and talking about kind of what we learn as we do open those doors. I'm sure you've learned a lot in the last year or so.
I have. So let's just go back just about a year ago when I got to go to Washington, D.C. for the very first time in my life and go to Arlington. And I met so many of Chris's paratroopers, and they were so kind to me. A couple came up and said, we appreciate you. And could you make sure Chris makes sure we get together once a year? Or, and I just like, really? I mean, you think I'm that person? You think I'm going to hang around a bit, right? But then I got to know people personally, and they're my extended family. I mean, I have a couple people that I'm on the phone with weekly, and I'm involved in their life. I want to be an encourager, a mentor, and bring whatever I can to share. It's family, and these are real people. They're just like our brothers and our sisters. And sadly, for the last 15 years, for some of these particular veterans, they've been struggling and alone because their units all went home and they went off and did their own things, and they were left struggling. And so that's just not okay with me. I love people so much. And, the opportunity to connect on a personal level and give encouragement probably serves me more than it could ever serve them.
For both of you, I've been asking some questions here, and I just want to give either of you the opportunity to just what else may be on your mind and heart about Veterans Day, about connecting with our veterans that we haven't already covered. Is there anything else that you think people should know?
Well, I had a very unusual opportunity this year. I have my oldest brother was in Vietnam, and I was in about first grade when he left, about third grade when he came back. He came back a drug addict, and he's been in and out of numerous terrible situations, good and bad. But I went and found him, and it was amazing. After all of these years, I haven't seen him in 25 years, and I would have never considered this. And so, thanks to Chris and Saber 6, there is an opportunity. And who is it we haven't connected with? And who are veterans that we can just, not have them be anonymous, but put ourselves out there. We're here enjoying this life and this freedom because of veterans. And it is the one day a year that we should all realize that veterans are there for everybody. This is not a holiday or an event for any minority or special interest of any kind. This is everybody on this soil, and it's a joyful thing.
Chris, anything further on your mind or in your heart?
Well, I genuinely value the opportunity to help people create a better future. And I think as we spoke last time, it's sort of like a normal distribution, if you will, a bell curve, where you've got people on one end who are genuinely just thriving and rocking the free world in their next chapter. You've got a few on the other end that are really, really struggling. And then most people in the middle are just trying to make the best that they possibly can. And so helping people create a better future through strengthening purpose, belonging, and well-being is what we're all about in the Sabre 6 Foundation, and how we make such a big impact.
And as we are sharing this Veterans Day, Sabre 6 Foundation is meeting together in Petaluma, California. There are events going on this weekend, and you want to share just a little bit about some of the things that you have the opportunity, that we have the opportunity, because I get to be involved as well, but we have the opportunity to share in this special day, and also to honor some of our veterans through some of the activities. Dee Dee, do you want to share just a little bit about what's going on in Petaluma?
Thanks, Steve. We're delighted to welcome our veterans and all the veterans in the community to join us in celebrating Veterans Day. And so we'll start on that Saturday morning with a bike ride. We have two, 25 and about a 49-mile ride. And wow, the city of Petaluma has rolled out the red carpet to invite Chris and Sabre 6 to be the grand marshal of their parade. Now, this is special because 25,000 people or more are expected. It is a very veteran-friendly community, and the thought of having our veterans on the float and seeing a community come and appreciate them, like there may never be appreciated so much again. And it's an opportunity to allow the community to know us, know other veterans, and maybe break down some of these barriers of not just saying thanks for your service, right? But coming up in 3D with all of their emotions and thanking with everything. And so that brings me the greatest joy. And so it's just a wonderful opportunity to come and show the work of Sabre 6, how we really care about purpose, belonging, and well-being, to pour into the veteran once they're home, so they too can go back and have lives like the rest of us have and be supported by community. And then we have a veteran coming in from Nashville, and Chuck Brisenio, a very talented individual. He's written some wonderful songs about veterans, and he is going to be featured in Walnut Park, which is the city park, at the end of the parade and into the evening. And we're going to have some commendations from some officials, and just a wonderful opportunity to share joy on both sides.
And Chuck was part of our unit.
Yes.
And so it's kind of a special treat to have him both as an extraordinary veteran and also somebody that we were together with in Afghanistan.
That's great. I want to finish with something that harkens back to what we were talking about just a few minutes ago. And before we close out today, Chris, I want to ask you, what is your most special memory of your time in the service?
Well, there's a lot of them, and I won't go into all of them. I spent about 24 and a half years in the military. I guess one of the things that I'm proudest about was, we were in one of the most violent, deadly areas of Afghanistan in 2007. We were on a 450-day deployment. And thanks to the work that our paratroopers did out there and the relationships they built with people a half a world away, they were able to motivate a large insurgent group to stop fighting and to switch sides. and being able to see that happen and to meet with people who had been fighting us a few months beforehand. And now we're talking about the things that our paratroopers did that convinced them to change their minds. I think that's my proudest moment in the service.
Thank you for sharing that. Chris Kolenda, Dee Dee Kiesow, thank you both for taking the time once again to be with us, to share with people, and I hope, to help us gain a better understanding and opportunities to connect with veterans everywhere who have served and are the ones, Dee Dee, as you put so well, the soil we walk on, the freedoms we enjoy, that there are people who have really paid the price for those things. So thank you both for continuing to work through Saber 6 and with all that you do to help us better connect with veterans, to help those veterans find fulfillment. And I look forward to spending this Veterans Day weekend with both of you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's a joy to be on your program.
Thanks. Right. And again, my thanks to Chris Kolenda and Dee Dee Kiesow for taking the time to come on and talk about this. I will tell you that when we recorded this, we held it together quite well during the conversation. We got done, and right after we finished recording and let everyone go, my phone rang, and it was Dee Dee. And she and I were both quite emotional. And it's not that, as you obviously picked up, it's not that there was a tremendous amount of emotion generated during the conversation, but there was just something about, it was in some ways, it was door opening and maybe cathartic in some ways to be able to share some of these things. But for me, among the important elements that came out of our conversation together, just the importance of recognizing that we have opportunities when we are engaging with veterans. We are engaging with anyone who has served, is serving actively in the military, and their families. Among the people that I have had the opportunity already to meet this weekend is a young lady whose husband, she is what's considered a Gold Star wife. Her husband was one of the 6 who Chris referred to, who was killed in action in Afghanistan when they were there. And she is here this weekend, a widow with 3 girls, 3 children she is raising on her own. And last night we had an opening event for this weekend get together, and she got up and spoke, shared her story. And it is life-changing to listen to engage with veterans. And so I would encourage you to do something that I'm now committed to doing. I've already had the opportunity this weekend to start doing. And that is, when you encounter someone who has served, do thank them for their service. And not just on Veterans Day. This is one of those times during the year when we have an opportunity to be reminded of something that we should be doing the other 364 as well. And that is to recognize, to honor, and to engage with those who have served. I know there are some of you on here right now who are military veterans, including Rick Venturi, some of you who've talked about family members who served. And so it is appropriate to say thank you for your service. And it's also appropriate to say, tell me more, to engage with people, to ask questions, to give them an opportunity to share their stories, because sharing of stories is what draws us together. Sharing of stories is part of what builds relationship and grows relationship. So I don't need to get on a soapbox about it, but once again, thank you to Chris and Dee Dee. Thank you to the Saber 6 Foundation. I consider it a rare and humbling privilege to be here this weekend to get to do these things. We had an event last night. I was there for the start of the bike ride this morning. I will be there this evening for that concert that with Chuck Bersenio that they were referring to. And actually there was a bit of change. I don't know if anybody tuning in is in Northern California is thinking, oh, maybe I'll just go up to Petaluma. We were talking about the concert being in the park. It has now been moved to a venue called Torches in Petaluma, and you can look that up and find the location for that. You can also go on the Saber 6 website, saber6foundation.org, I think is the right one. I'll post that for sure on my pages so that you can see that and make sure you have the right information, but gives the entire schedule for this weekend. So if anybody is in Northern California and feels like they want to come up here and be a part of that event this evening, you can do so. There's also, I forgot to mention this, starting in about 3 hours is Petaluma's Veterans Day Parade taking place through the downtown area. Chris Kolenda will be the Grand Marshal riding in a car. The other veterans and family members who are here participating will, Dee Dee mentioned a float. Originally there was going to be a float. Now actually those who are participating as part of Saber 6 will be walking and handing out some packets to people on the side watching the parade. And once again, I feel very humbled and honored. I get to join them and walk in the parade, not as a veteran, not even as a family member, but as someone who is getting the opportunity, having the opportunity to engage on a deeper level. And I'm already hearing some stories. And I'll tell you from those stories, I'm already locating and connecting with some people who I believe could be and hopefully will be guests on Coffee Breaks with Steve in the future to share some of their own experiences and some of their stories because they were amazing. All right, listen, I want to share a couple of things before we finish up today. And I want to continue to hear your stories. If you're tuned in live or if you are watching this later on, we want to hear your stories. We want to know whether it's your personal service, the service of a family member, anything else that ties you to service in the military in our country, and recognizing that our freedoms are here because of that. Okay, I said I wasn't going to soapbox, and I'm soapboxing. Here's what's coming up in the next few weeks. I'll tell you that some things are up in the air for a variety of reasons. One is that I'm going to be doing some more traveling. We've got holidays coming up, and I'm sensitive to when family's in town and we're doing holiday things. I want to have time for family. So be watching the Facebook page because I'll be giving you updates on the Coffee Breaks with Steve schedule. But next week, this was actually going to be a couple of weeks out. We're moving some things around. There's a singer-songwriter by the name of Pamela Jean. She's also an advocate to speak out about domestic violence and trying to help those who have been in those situations, as she herself will share, she's come out of. But we're going to be sharing her story next week. We're going to be even sharing some of her music next week. And so I invite you to tune in to watch that. The following week after that is Thanksgiving weekend. Still a little bit up in the air whether there's going to be an episode of Coffee Breaks because we will have family in town. And again, I want to be sensitive to that. So keep tuned in and posted to that. And then we're doing some scheduling for the early part of December. I'm going to be traveling back east again in the early part of December. So we're still trying to figure all those things out. And I appreciate your consistency and your patience as part of our Coffee Breaks family. Are there topics that you would like to see us discuss? Are there guests that you would like to see on Coffee Breaks with Steve? Maybe there's somebody you can even provide an introduction to because you think their story would be a great one for us to feature. Please reach out to me and let me know at my email address, cbwsteve@comcast.net, and we can set up a time to talk about your ideas because that's what makes this work. And then I want to remind you that you can not only see us if you're tuned into Facebook, that's typically often the easiest way to get involved in the conversation, but you can also tune in on YouTube, and the recorded versions of Coffee Breaks with Steve are available on both Facebook and YouTube. And in addition to that, you can find our episodes later on several of the podcast sites, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And then just a reminder as well, in terms of YouTube, if you're not already subscribed to my channel on YouTube, I would just encourage you and invite you to do that and to share it with other people. Not because I'm looking to make myself a bigger deal, but as you've heard today, there are messages, there are guests, there are ideas and things and people more than anything else in our topics that I would love a larger audience to have an opportunity to see and hear from. I think so many people would appreciate and would really gain from being able to see and hear this conversation with Chris Kolenda and Dee Dee Kiesow, among so many others. So just encourage you to do that. All right. I think I've spoken long enough today, right? I believe so. And I just want to thank you once again for being here. Thank you for being part of the Coffee Breaks with Steve family. Thank you for giving me a little bit of freedom and flexibility when I need it to not be on the air on a Saturday, but also when I'm coming back and I'm still trying to remember where all the buttons are to push, especially when I'm working remotely, that we're all just one big happy family sitting around our virtual coffee table together. So until the next time, just hope that you have an opportunity to not only celebrate this Veterans Day and this Veterans Day weekend in whatever ways you typically do, whether it's with family or within your community, but just take to heart the messages that we have been sharing today and look for the opportunities to not only thank a veteran, but engage with them, develop those relationships, listen to the stories, and make it a part of not only a more fulfilling part of their lives, but a part of your life as well. And with that, among other things, including that, please find a way to make a difference in your world this week. God bless you. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.